So I've been fishing pretty much my whole life, always loved the water and fished from a kayak. Fish on. Oh God, it feels big. Jesus. Oh, I think I just broke the rod. This rod is horrible. Oh, that's a nice freaking walleye. Get in the boat. Yeah! Well, I figured it was time to step up my fishing game, and the next step up was a John boat. And then I stumbled across John boat to bass boat conversions, and I completely loved the idea of being able to build out your own boat. I spent the next month looking at and dreaming about building my own. There was just one problem. I knew absolutely nothing about boats, but that didn't stop me, so I went to Academy and bought a 1436 John boat. To make a long story short, I spent a month or two working on this boat and learning everything I could about boats in the process. I filmed and documented the entire build process and uploaded it to YouTube, and a lot of people loved the boat, and a lot of people called it a death trap. I built the entire boat out of 2x4s and plywood, and a lot of comments said it was too heavy, which it probably was, but I still loved the boat and the end results were amazing. We took the boat out for the first time and I fell even more in love with the boat. First time fishing on the John boat. First time in the John boat. What an awesome day, man. I'm happy. Is that fish on? No way. Hell yeah. First fish on the boat. I gotta land this, dude. Hey! Yeah. Bass, baby. First. Oh, shit. No, you can't leave just yet. First fish on the John boat. Second cast? Yeah, second cast. No freaking way. Well, I'm already in love with the boat. A little bass, not bad for first fish. See you, buddy. Alright, so there's Devin's first fish on the John boat. Dude, that is a pretty bass. That's so green. Hell yeah, dude. So today, we're taking apart the John boat. The deck, all the framing, the trolling motor, the fish finder, all the wiring and all the batteries are all coming out. It's a little heartbreaking, but I guess we'll get to do it all over again. God, what the hell? Not even a year later, and the boat that I built with my bare hands and loved so much is now getting torn apart. So why am I tearing my boat apart? Well, now is a good time to bring up the sponsor of today's video. If you need anything for your boat, or if you plan to build your own tiny boat just like I did, tbnation.net has everything you need to build an awesome tiny boat. Don't mess up like I did the first time around and make a death trap. Go check out tbnation.net and order all the parts you need to make a super light, safe, all aluminum boat. Guys, this is why I tore apart my first build. Tiny Boat Nation sent me all the aluminum to rebuild my boat the right way. So now I have a lightweight and safe John boat to bass boat conversion. And you could too if you go check out tbnation.net. And guys, I even have a discount code just for you to save you some money on your build. Use code AdamRyan during checkout and save 5% on your entire order. And you too could have an awesome tiny boat just like this one, or however you want to build it. That's the cool thing about these tiny boats. You can build them to fit your needs. And if you're thinking, I don't have the skills to build something like this, well, guess what, guys? I thought the same thing, and I freaking built this. I'm not one to brag about myself, but this boat surpassed my expectations of what I thought I could build by a lot. Also, I'm about to give you the full step-by-step rundown of exactly how I built this boat. And if you want more info on how I built it, check out this playlist here of me actually building this boat where I show every single screw. Okay, there's only about 7 screws on this boat, but I show you every rivet, and there's probably about 2,000 rivets, but I go into complete detail on everything I did, so go check out the playlist after watching this video. But as you just saw, I tore everything out of the first build and started with a clean shell of a John boat. Real quick, I want to add, I took the entire boat apart except for the bilge pump and the back fish finder transducer. I mounted those on the first build, and they're in the spots that they're going to be in on this build, so I didn't take those off. I don't mention them anywhere in this video. You don't see me attaching them. So there it is, already attached. Just so everyone's aware, this boat does have a bilge pump. So tbnation.net supplied me with all the aluminum framing, 5 rivet together waterproof boxes, build your own lid kits, this trolling motor bracket mount, a day box with a dry hatch lid, a all aluminum welded live well, and 4 pre-made lids. So after getting the John boat tour apart, I had a few spots I had to repaint. And then I made the decision to cut out all the benches. I put up some braces across the top lip of the boat so the boat will stay in the same shape. After cutting the first bench out, I noticed the top opened about 1 inch. Also, I feel it's necessary to say if you cut your benches out, don't cut them out fully. Leave some material there to turn the bench into a rib.
And there is a completely gutted John boat.
The benches were out and I went ahead and painted where the benches were sitting.
I got everything painted. It is looking good. It's bare, completely empty now. It's pretty crazy, but it's pretty cool because now the possibilities are endless. I can do anything. I'm not held up by the benches anymore, so I can redesign this thing any way I want.
So these lips I'm adding around the top of the boat is how I'm going to be attaching everything to the boat. It's just 1-inch aluminum that I cut slots into so I could easily bend the angle to the curvature of the boat. And I attached that with 3/16 rivets. Next up, I added 1-inch foam to the entire floor of the boat. The ribs in the boat are 1 inch tall, so the foam helped make the floor all level. You are still seeing the benches I cut out earlier in this shot because again, I didn't know what I was doing and did it all out of order. But if I did it now, this is the order I would do it in. So I just unboxed a bunch of waterproof rivet together boxes, so let's start putting those together. After getting all 3 boxes done, I threw them in the boat to see what configuration I liked best. Then I attached all the boxes together using 1-inch angle to make the core of the boat. This is Michael Lopez's design. He's been building and perfecting these tiny boat builds for the last few years, and this is hands down the best way to start a John boat build in my opinion. Once you have the core made and dropped into the boat, it's really easy to start attaching framing to the core and design the boat from there. Next thing I did was work on the back deck, and one thing I liked about this build was I actually knew stuff about boats this time around. And my last boat build was really heavy in the back, so on this build I wanted to make the back deck as light as possible, so I knew I wanted only the gas tank and the day box in the back, so I designed all the framing around that. And then I filled the rest of the space in the back with foam. I went all out with the foam. I took a lot of foam out of the benches, so I'm making sure I put as much foam as I can back into the boat.
Alright, so there is the day box open. It looks pretty freaking good. I'm digging it, man.
Now it's time to attach the back deck to the core. All my framing in this boat is 1/16 1-inch aluminum. I put up these 2 pieces and then cut out aluminum sheeting to make a wall. Then attach framing here to make another wall, and that made the perfect space for the cockpit. I cut out the rest of the walls and got them riveted into place. I ordered some new toys for the boat. I got the EcoMap UHD 93 SV and the Garmin Panoptix. That's right, baby. This little 14 John boat is gonna have live scope and I cannot freaking wait to use it. I also got a hydro wave as well. I am going all out on this boat. But I decided since I added so much foam around the gas tank, I needed to build a gas proof box around the tank in case any gas spills out. Alright, the box is done. Oh, never mind. But gas will eat up this foam and turn it into a sticky, nasty pink goo, and I don't ever want that to happen. So I built this box. But before I could install the box, I had to run all the wiring from the back to the front of the boat. While it did turn out awesome, this box was a pain in the butt to get in. It took me 4 hours of working on it off camera to finally get it in, but now we can spill gas and not have any worries. I also installed a LED light in the box as well. Next, I added a LED light in the day box and drilled a hole in the box for water runoff, and then added extra support to the back deck. Then I cut the hinges to fit in the core. This is also the time I got some pre-made lids from Nate. My boat was the guinea pig for these lids and I love them. Add some hat channel for support and there is no flex whatsoever. I definitely approve these lids. Now it is time to work on the rod locker. I added angle across the wall to get a straight box and then cut out a floor. Drop that in and then slid in a wall to close off the box. I traced 9 circles and cut those out, and that is where the rod tubes are going to slide into. To attach this wall, I added a brace behind it and riveted it in, and that is also how I attached the last hinge to the core. I cut out a wall for the other side and slid that in place as well, and then cut another wall to make a box for the end of the rods to sit in. I cut out slots, added foam, and then door guard to protect the rods, and then installed it. I went ahead and added the foam to the front of the rod locker and then to the floor, and man, it looked awesome. The rod locker runs all the way to the front of the boat, so I needed to box that off. I put up a wall, and now it was time to close all the gaps. I used gap filler foam and then cut some tubing for water runoff. I cut the pipe down to size and started shoving them into the holes, and used the heat gun to bend the pipes to the curvature of the boat so I could fit more pipes in, and then close off the remaining of the box, and then it was time for the pour foam. This step was really fun. I don't know why, but I felt like a freaking chemist mixing these chemicals together and making foam start expanding. I purposely over poured the foam because I wanted the most foam as possible in this boat, so I had to cut the top off to make it flush with the deck. Also made this little water runoff area just in case any water gets on top of this foam. Cutting into the foam opened and closed cell foam, so I had to seal the foam back off. I got it sealed with some Flex Seal, the best product in the entire universe. The sealant dried, and now it was time to make sure my water runoff idea worked. Oh yes, running down. Freaking perfect. Let's empty that out and come down here. And it is running off. That is freaking sweet. Works. That was freaking awesome. Let's go check out the back of the boat, where all the water runs to. Oh, yeah, it's already pouring out. Oops. So yeah, all that water is already draining out the back of the boat. So my whole entire water runoff system works, which is awesome. I don't expect any water to really get on this, but you never really know, and that is why I went through all those steps to make sure the water can and will run off. Speaking of making things waterproof, I took some 1/2-inch angle, cut and bent it to shape to fit around the boxes to make a dry lip system so no water can get in the boxes. Later in this video I will be sealing these off, but I got them into place and cut some door guard to go around these lips, and this is just to make it look a lot better. Next up, I started making the rod locker lids with the build your own lid kits. I cut 3/4 inch square tubing to size and cut 45-degree angles and shoved the pre-made welded corner brackets into the tubing and tightened it up with some shimmies and riveted it all together. I did the same thing for the gas tank compartment lid and the extra storage lid that you will see later in the video. So I quickly realized when I started piecing together the back deck that when I'm stacking this angle on top of each other, it doesn't make a flush deck. So to fix that, I had to add extra pieces of aluminum to those spots. It was only about 4 spots, but this is what I'm doing here. But I got the framing for most of the lids done, and now it's time to work on attaching the piano hinges. The gas compartment was weird, so I had to make this strange thing to make it work and make it strong. I hated adding hinges on the first build. It was the worst part for me, and adding hinges on this build wasn't that fun either. But I figured out the best way to do it, doing the first hinge, and after that the rest of them wasn't too bad. Also, I had Nate's pre-built lid on the day box, so I just copied the height that he put his hinge to make the entire boat match. I made these rod lockers massive, so I need to add support to them. I cut little pieces of 1-inch angle and riveted them into place. These pieces will also be for the deck support to sit on. Then I went ahead and added some EVA foam to the inside of all the compartments. This is the cheap Amazon foam, and everyone and their grandma was telling me this stuff sucks and don't use it, but I already spent like 300 bucks on this stuff, so dang it, I'm using it. On the instructions it says to attach it and then add sealant to all the edges, so that's what I did. I didn't take any shortcuts on attaching this foam, so I'll keep y'all updated on how bad this foam really is and how long it really lasts. So now I needed to add some up and down support to the rod lockers. So I stuck a few pieces of angle to some square tubing and came up with this weird thing, riveted them in place, and it worked like a charm. No more worrying about these huge rod locker lids bending in as soon as I stepped on it. Then I attached the sheet metal to the lids using .090 aluminum sheeting, and this part was cool because you could finally start to see the deck starting to form. The last step for these lids was to give them support and make them strong by attaching hat channel to the inside of the lid. I went ahead and added hat channel to all the other lids as well. This was a ton of drilling out 3/16 holes, dropping in rivets, and getting it riveted. But it was worth it because the boat was looking freaking awesome. Next, I needed to make the last lid, doing the same thing I already did to the other lids. Frame it out, add a hinge, add support, and rivet it all together. I made templates of this lid, the sides, and the back deck. Traced them onto metal and cut them out. Also came up with the idea to throw my YouTube logo on the boat and had American Sheet Metal in Amarillo, Texas cut this out for me. I had them cut and make me a lot of stuff for this boat project, and they do amazing work. If you're in the Amarillo area, I highly recommend them for any type of metal work. Nate's Custom Boats and Accessories sent me a care package with some 3/4 inch tubing for the deck framing. I cut the pieces down to size and started throwing them in the spots that needed support and laid down the sheet metal. I realized before I could attach all this, I needed to frame out the front deck or at least get it started. I attached the deck framing by drilling from underneath all the side rails and riveting through the framing. Once I got the framing attached, I attached the sheet metal, and the more sheet metal I attached, the better the boat started to look. I added quick epoxy to the AR piece and then stuck plexiglass to the back of it, and then unboxed the trolling motor pedal tray. I then decided that I wanted to paint all the lids and framing white. So I sanded all the surfaces to rough it up, wiped it all down with acetone, and spent the next day painting. I eventually get 3 to 4 coats on these lids, but the white was a game changer for this boat. It made it pop. Now it was time to finish the front deck framing. I added all the 3/4 square tubing, then added the last piece of hat channel to the last lid, and then sealed off the dry lips with some waterproof sealant, and got those riveted into place with some 1/8 countersink rivets that I got off Amazon. I painted the lid support and the dry lip system and then called it a day. The next day I added another coat of paint, painted the foot pedal tray, and got all the front deck framing riveted down. Now it was time for wiring, the funnest part of a boat build. I started cutting pieces of wire and said, nah, I'll do that tomorrow. So then got all the lid struts installed. I got 10-pound struts on all the small lids and 20-pound struts on the large rod locker lids. The next morning I drilled the foot pedal tray rivet holes, got a hose connector attached, and the hose running straight down into a rib for water runoff. And now it was time to do the wiring. I spent about 27 hours taping up this wire harness for all the electronics, which I regret because later on I took it all apart to get rid of the slack in each wire after it was attached. I built this boat so far not having a plan and just going with the flow, but at this point I had to come up with a plan for how I wanted the wire to run.
Fish finder, wire, fuse block. This might be my trolling motor battery. I could do the trolling motor here on this side, which is different from the last one. It was power cables on that side. Carol Baskin. The trolling motor being over here is really messy. Wiring can come up from here. It's supposed to be an easy install, but it's not. Trolling motor here, and then this battery that will be here is your trolling motor battery.
I came up with a perfect plan and got to work. And of course that plan changed about midway through. But I decided on putting the electrical box in the first compartment, so I dropped the battery in and worked around the battery so I knew I could get a battery in when it's all done. I ran the wiring through the pipe and drilled a hole, and that was my pathway to get all the wiring into the box. But all those wires are just the power wires for everything. We still had a crap ton of wires waiting around in all the boxes, so I had to bust those out to plan where those wires are gonna go. Have I mentioned the wiring is the funnest part of a boat build yet? I started attaching the quick disconnect for the trolling motor onto the foot pedal tray and started shoving as much foam as possible under the tray. This entire front deck will eventually be completely full of foam, but I filled under the tray and got the tray riveted down. I stuffed a crap ton of foam in every little gap of this front deck, got the quick disconnect mounted on, then zip tied the pipe in place and shoved more foam behind it. I drilled a hole, put in a grommet and shoved the trolling motor power wire through and got it attached to the trolling motor. I drilled holes and ran wires for the fish finder transducers, the hydro wave speaker, and then added foam to this wall. So this second rod locker size compartment is going to be split into 2 compartments. The front half will be electronics and the back half is passenger storage. I added a lip to the bottom to make the floor install easier and to make it look better. Then cut out the floor sheeting and then added foam. By the way, all the flooring and walls I added were .040 aluminum sheeting, and the cockpit floor I did 0.60, and for a reminder, all the top deck is .090. For all the divider walls, I used the metal from the benches I cut out. I got the floor riveted down and then drilled out 2.5-inch holes for the latches and put them in place. These will have to come out later for the foam, but I let them in to feel like I accomplished more that day. It helps me sleep at night. I got the latches with locks and keys so I can lock everything up when I need to. Again, it helps me sleep at night. I added the rest of the foam inside the rod lockers, added another layer of paint to everything, and then made a template of the front deck for the foam and cut it out. I dropped the front deck into place and it looked amazing. We finally had a full deck on the boat, but we still have to run all the wiring and add foam before we can attach it. I messed up my template for the back corner and had to wait for more metal to cut a new piece, so I cut a new piece out and got the back corner decking and sheet metal attached. And attached this piece of decking above the AR logo. And there wasn't anything left to stop me from doing the wiring, so now it was time. I started with attaching the black box for the live scope. I screwed it to this wall and drilled holes, added grommets, and ran all the wiring. Now it was time to install the fuse block and the switch panel, and just kind of plan out where it all goes inside this box. Got the fuse block attached to the wall, and then ran all the wires from the back of the boat to inside the electrical box and got them attached to the fuse block and the switch panel. Next up was installing the battery charger. I planned to have lithium batteries on this build to help with the weight, so I had to order a new charger that could safely charge lithium batteries. Also had to upgrade to a 3-bank charger since I'm having 3 batteries on this build. I got the charger in the general area where I wanted it, and instantly voided my warranty by cutting the wire to get it into the battery compartment. I got it through and soldered it back together. Next I ran all the LED strips in all the compartments. I got white light in the compartments to be able to see in case something breaks, and then I got red LED light behind the AR logo. After seeing how bright the LED strips were, these little 6 LED lights looked like white dog poop, so I replaced those with LED strips as well. I attached all these compartment LED strips to bus bars so they could all be on one switch. And then I made a box to mount the switch in the compartment. This box is also how I'm going to hide all the extra wire. I got all the positive wires connected to the switch and ran to the fuse block along with all the negative wires and made sure everything was working, and then I had to clean up all the wiring. This is where I cut up the wiring harness and wasted 27 hours of my life. But I got the wires all cleaned up. 27 hours is a joke, by the way. It didn't take that long, maybe like 4 hours. But I got the wires all cleaned up and it looked awesome. I added the battery tray that I had to cut up and customize to fit, and then dropped in a 25-pound 100 amp hour lithium battery and got all the wires connected to it. Then attached the battery box and dropped in a 60-pound lead acid battery. This battery is for only the trolling motor. I got the trolling motor wires attached to it and attached this battery tester so I can easily see how much battery power I have left. If you look right here, there is a 60 amp breaker connected to the trolling motor positive wire. I had this on my last boat build and I never had any problems running the trolling motor all day. This also acts as my kill switch for this battery. I ran the last bit of wiring, cut a hole in the front deck for the wiring to run through, and then added as much pink foam as humanly possible under the front deck. Ran the wiring through the hole and then dropped the top deck in place and got it riveted down for good. I then slapped the Okuma sticker on the back. Guys, if you want the best fishing gear on the market, okumafishingusa.com is the place to get it. Check out the links in the description below. Now it's time to work on the top deck. I plan to add a higher section of decking on the front, and that is where I'm going to be attaching all the fish finders, nav light, the headlights, and the hydro wave. I started with attaching the trolling motor mount, got that riveted into place. I drilled out the trolling motor screw holes and cut the front of the mount to make it match the base of the trolling motor. I made supports for the top deck, attached the trolling motor to the base, and attached the transducer and the hydro wave speaker to the trolling motor, and ran the wires through the foot pedal tray. I riveted all the deck supports in place and added foam to the front support. Then it was time for more white paint. I painted the trolling motor mount, the inside walls of the boat, and all the hinges. I attached the trolling motor base and the trolling motor was completely attached. Next I wired red LED strips and ran them down the entire lip of the boat. I did red LED lights because red LED doesn't affect your night vision like white light does. I got all the LEDs attached with 5200 and riveted down the front support, leaving the LED and the live scope transducer wire running out the side. Next I attached the AR wall. and decided to make a new piece here so that there was a 1/2 inch overhang. That just makes the foam look a lot cleaner and easier to cut. Back to the wiring up front. I got all the wire managed and started to mount the fish finders. I had this cool idea to mount the first fish finder under the top deck. That way it sits lower than the screen in the back. And I won't have to make or buy any special mounts for it. I got the fish finders mounted, got the lights, the nav light, and the hydro wave all attached, and all the holes drilled. Then I took it all apart, added foam to it, and then put it all back together once and for all. I added the last coat of paint to the cockpit. Then I used my templates of the deck and cut out all the foam. I'm using the self-routing ortho deck foam in the cool gray and white color. This is a 1436 John boat, and it took 4 sheets to get the entire deck covered. If you want to save yourself some time, then order enough the first time, unlike me. I started to attach the foam to the deck and ran out, so I started attaching all the latches. And then got my LiveScope transducer pole mount from American Sheet Metal, and once again they knocked this project out of the park. I got the mount painted and then screwed into place on the deck, got the pole attached, and attached the LiveScope transducer. And since I had the LiveScope sticking out over the side of the boat, I went ahead and changed the pole guides I had on the trailer to some short bunk guides, so I don't have to worry about knocking off the transducer mount. Next I needed to paint the rod locker support arms red so they didn't stand out so much. I got the rest of the foam in and drilled a hole for the gas compartment vent, and then attached the last bits of foam to the boat. Installed the latch and the vent, and the outside of the boat was officially done. All I have to do now is make a divider for the electrical / passenger storage compartment, and then connect the black box battery, which is a 20 amp hour lithium battery that weighs 6 pounds, and then attach the battery charger, and the boat is finally done. I still need to do a few things to the boat, like attach quick disconnects to the black box battery and add rod holders and a rod strap, but I will do that soon. But guys, there it is. That was a step-by-step video on how I built my John boat. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.